Hey guys, so today we got a little bit of a different video today. Today we are going to practice the use of our graphing calculator to find some of the characteristics that we've talked about. We've talked about an axis symmetry, we've talked about a vertex or a turning point, whatever you want to call it. Talked about whether it's a minimum or a maximum, and we've also now since talked about the roots. So today we're just going to take one simple problem, which I have already written up on the screen there. And we're going to find all those characteristics just using our graphing calculator. Nothing really by hand or anything like that. So what this is good for you to check that the work you did by hand is correct. You can use your graphing calculator on tests and quizzes to check to see if what you did is right. This is not meant as a substitute to have to show your work, though, when it asks you to show your work. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. All right, so I have my graphing calculator ready to go down here on my calculator. You can see it down there. That's the one that I'm going to use. Why don't you take a second? If you need to go grab your calculator, do that. I'm going to hit pause on the video, and then we will resume. Okay, we're back. Now, if you want, you could also use the graphing calculator like I do here on my screen. It's completely up to you. Anyway, I pulled it up. I go to my y equal to, so I'm actually clicking the button here, y equal to. If there's anything there cleared out, just hit the clear button. And now we're going to type in our equation x squared minus 6x plus 5. Okay. Now, I can look at the graph of it, and if somebody said, hey, I want you to sketch the graph, I could easily sketch the graph of that thing. So let's just write down the things we're going to find today. The axis of symmetry. We're going to find the vertex or turning point, whatever you want to call it. We're also going to find the roots. So I'm just listing these so that we can go through and find each one of them. Okay, let me bring this back up. Okay, so now if somebody asked me to make a sketch of this thing, I could pretty easily do that. Let me go back to my screen here. It looked a little something like this. So if someone said, draw a sketch of this. Why is it not working? There we go. A sketch like that kind of matches that picture a little bit. All right, but let's get to the exact stuff. How can we find the axis symmetry? Well, the place that we can go to find the axis, the axis symmetry is the table. So get to second table will bring me to the table. Now, where do I find the axis of symmetry? I find the axis of symmetry wherever I have my repeating values, and then I find that value in the middle. Okay, so I don't see anything repeat. Okay, now it's starting to repeat. Now, if you look, where x is equal to 3 is that point that has a point that's all by itself. It doesn't have any of the repeating ones like these other ones do. That tells me that x is equal to 3 must be the axis of symmetry, and that 3, negative 4 is my turning point or my vertex. So x is equal to 3 is the axis of symmetry, and according to the table, 3, negative 4 is my turning point. Okay, but that's not really what I want to show you as far as getting the vertex. I can see that one because it's in the table, but if that vertex was, let's say, a decimal value, where the axis symmetry is a decimal value, I would not be able to find it in the table. So I want to show you something different that you haven't seen yet. We're going to use this button up here that says trace, but in blue it says calculate. So I want you to hit second calc. Now, it's going to allow me to calculate things about the equation we typed in. Do I want to find its value? Do I want to find its zero? Do I want to find its minimum, its maximum? I want to find its minimum, because if you look at the graph that we sketched, we know that this thing has a minimum point. So the minimum point would also be its turning point. So I can actually click on that X is equal to the third one. And look what it says. It says left bound. So is this point on the left-hand side of what I think is the minimum? Yes, so I'm going to hit enter. Now it says right-hand bound. So I'm going to have to use my directions arrows until I can get that point on the other side of where I think my minimum is. Okay, that's good enough. Hit enter again. It says make a guess. I'll make a guess. I think it's like there. Hit enter. And look what it does. Now, if you look at how this is not perfect. I don't know why it does that, but it's supposed to be 3, -4. We know that it's 3, -4. We saw in the table. I don't know why it sometimes does that. I think it has something to do with just the way the graphics are in this thing, and it can't get it exact. But anyway, 3, -4 is our vertex. Now, another thing we want to discuss is what are the roots of this quadratic. Now, I know, based on my lesson from yesterday, that my roots are the places where this graph crosses the x-axis. Those are my roots, sometimes also known as zeros. So if you're thinking, hey, I remember seeing when you just clicked on the calculator a second ago, there was an option for zeros, you're right. So let's go back. Second, calc, zeros. So number 2. Now it says go to the left again. So let's get this first one that we think is the 0 here. So this point now is to the left hand side of what we think is a 0. So hit enter. Now we're going to go to the what we think is the right side. So now this is on the right hand side of what we think is our 0. So we hit enter. And it says make a guess. I think it's like somewhere about there. Hit enter. And x is equal to 1. So one of our roots is x is equal to 1. Sorry, that goes away every time I write, but there it is. It says it right down here. X is equal to 1. Now, we have to do this again to get the other one. It doesn't give us both of them. So we hit this again. We're going to be guessing on this one this time. So make sure this point is to the left of this. It is. So we hit enter. Now we needed to go to the right of the other one. So we just keep moving it. Now it's to the right hand side of this point. So we hit enter again. Make a guess. X is equal to 5. So there's our 2 roots. X is equal to 1 and x is equal to 5. And we use our graphing calculator to find that for us. We use the calculate feature. Now I know what you're saying. I could have also gone to my table and found my roots there. That's where x or y is equal to 0. You can see it here, 1, 0. So x is equal to 1. Yep. And 5, 0. So x is equal to 5. So that's another way you can find it from the table. Again, what I'm really showing you here is when you can't use the table. So if the roots were a decimal value, or let's say the vertex was a decimal value, it wouldn't be in the table. That's where the calculate feature. So if you hit second calculate, you have all those fun things. That's where this is going to come in handy. I just wanted to show you a video where we could find them really easily, and we could also check them really easily by looking at a table. But the reality is for your homework tonight, I'm going to give you one where it's going to be a decimal answer. So round your answer to the nearest tenth, and that'll be fine. Okay? All right. Well, good luck. If you need to rewatch the video, rewatch the video. Hope you learned something new about the power of your graphing calculator.